Okay, so StreamYard is apparently having some problems, so I'm just gonna go straight to YouTube, which I haven't actually live streamed on YouTube in like a really long time. So yeah, we're just gonna do it straight to YouTube. And this is Sinestro from the Mcfarlane Super Friends line. Sinestro is a character that's been a favorite of mine ever since I was a kid. Ever since I first saw God damn, this thing is mirrored, and it's got me throwing. It's throwing me off because I'm looking at like the wrong end of the camera. So, whatever. I wish Streamyard was working. So let's see if I can do that. Flip no. Hide live video. I don't know. It's messed up. So I don't know if I'm showing as being flipped or not. Let's like go to YouTube on my computer and see what it says that I'm doing. It would hurry up and load because it's going so slowly. Whatever. Let's just go ahead and open it up. So here's the artwork on the back. We're familiar with this artwork by now. There's what the front looks like. Blah blah blah. I've opened several of these this week, so we're pretty well familiar with this. Let's go ahead and just open it. All right. So when I was a kid, and I first saw Super Friends, and first saw Challenge of the Super Friends, that was when I first saw Sinestro. And I was kind of fascinated because, hey, look, it's an evil Green Lantern. That's kind of cool. And then a few years later, I would have read the first appearance of Sinestro. Well, not the first appearance, but like my first Sinestro comic with the origin of Sinestro. And of all things, an issue of Batman the Brave and the Bold, in which Batman teamed up with the Guardians of the Universe, and Sinestro was the villain of that. There's what the trading card looks like. We're familiar with the back of the trading card by now, right? So there's what the back of that looks like, because all the backs of these Super Friends trading cards are the same, apparently. And he comes with a couple of accessories, so let's go ahead and have a look at those. But yeah, Sinestro, of course, is the arch enemy of Green Lantern. Green Lantern will be the next figure that we open, by the way. And specifically the Hal Jordan version of Green Lantern. But he's not quite as prolific in the comics as you might think he was. In fact, I kind of suspect he probably had more appearances on the Challenge of the Super Friends cartoon than he had in the comic books up to that time. So here are the accessories he comes with. He comes with a, little remote control communicator-like device. It seems like all the Super Friends figures come with one of those so far. And he comes with like this big pair of pliers, which is probably manifested, almost certainly manifested by his power ring. And let's go ahead and get the rubber tabs off of him. So he's got what would be rubber tabs around his ankles, but it looks like it didn't go all the way through. So good for me. I don't have to deal with that crap. And a couple of rubber tabs around the torso. Shasha. Got those off. And Sinestro was a pretty muscular guy. A little more muscular than you might imagine he is. And I wanted to compare with Superman, because I think, yep, it looks like he shares a lot of parts with Superman. So the same arms. These wrist cuffs are just kind of painted on. So he's got the same arms, the same thighs, probably. I think they are. Actually, no, I think they're a little bit skinnier than Superman's. I wonder if they reused the Riddler's thighs. Don't. There we go. Yeah, it looks like they reused the Riddler's thighs and Superman's arms and torso. And I got some brand new lower legs with these distinctive Sinestro-type boots. Sinestro was drawn by the creator of the character, Gil Kane, to look somewhat like David Niven, and I think you can still even see that in this version of it. And I think was probably at least somewhat a little bit inspired also by Ming the Merciless, who was the OG sci-fi villain back in the day. Back in the days before Star Wars, he would have been the most prominent villain in all of science fictiondom. And he's got the power ring on the right hand, which really Sinestro should have it on the left hand. But I think that that's accurate to Super Friends. I think that he had it on the right hand in Super Friends, which is not correct. He should have it on the left hand. I'm just saying. So since they reused the Superman parts, he wound up being a little more muscular than I tend to think of Sinestro as being. I tend to think of him as being a bit more slender, a bit more lean. We can see that on the artwork, on the trading card. Maybe they should have just used the Riddler parts again for the top part, but he still looks really cool and very impressive. So he's just a little stockier than I usually imagine Sinestro as being. And of course, Sinestro's costume was colored slightly differently on the cartoon than it was in the comics, because in the comics, all this stuff that's dark blue would have been black. So, and I think they made the light blue portions a little more light blue than they actually were on the cartoon. At least as far as I remember, I think that they would have been a little lighter than this on the cartoon. And you can see his skin is more of a pink shade than the red that it was in the comic. It was that magenta color. And the belt is where you see a lot of that Ming influence. He's got very much that type of belt like Ming has. And it does have a belt buckle sculpted into it, but since it's all painted the same color, it's not as obvious as you might think it is. And the starburst around his shoulders, that's a separate piece. So you can actually see that there's a little bit of relief there, and it's not glued on all the way, so you can kind of peel it up a little bit there. I wouldn't advise doing that too much because you don't want to bend it out of shape or anything like that. So looking at Sinestro as he appeared on the cartoon, we can see that there are indeed, rings around the wristbands, and they aren't on here. They're just painted on because, like I said, they reused Superman's arms. So he's got new fists, or at least a new fist over here, and a new gripping hand on this side, so he can hold the pliers or the communication device in this hand. Whereas Superman had an open hand on the left hand. So it is a tight fit, but there he is with the pliers. And go ahead and put the little communication device in his hand. This is probably the smallest one that I've seen thus far. But I guess all the Legion of Doom wants to keep in contact with each other. And they did a little bit of a paint application. I don't know if you're going to be able to make that onto the camera, but he's got mostly yellow ring with a tiny little green dot in it. And of course, in the cartoon, he actually did have a Green Lantern emblem in his ring, even though it was a yellow power ring with the yellow inside of it. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. So Sinestro can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Really, I think these heads are just made to be rotated around. They're not supposed to. Any side-to-side motion or up and down motion we got out of it, that's just kind of a bonus that I don't think was really intended. Sinestro can rotate his arms all around his shoulders and move his arms up to the sides about that far. He has the single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends in about that far and rotates all the way around. Wrists rotate all the way around. Like I've said about these figures, they're not quite as well articulated as the Mcfarlane multiverse figures, but they're still better articulated than superpowers. It's kind of somewhere in between. So rotates all the way around the waist. Sinestro can kick up about that far. He can't kick back very far at all because his butt cheeks are sculpted onto the trunk piece instead of being sculpted onto the legs. So, and then he has a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which does not quite bend 90 degrees. It kind of, I think it's partially because of the boot. The way the boot is sculpted, it kind of bumps into it. And then that rotates all the way around. And that's it for for the articulation. There's no articulation in the ankles whatsoever. There's nothing at all. No fancy toe articulation just to show off. That's it. What you see is what you get. But other than the fact that, like I said, he's a little stockier than I think Sinestro was in the cartoon, I think it's pretty accurate to how he was drawn on Super Friends, and captures the flavor of it pretty well. The colors are good. Like I said, they're fairly accurate. I think the blue, the lighter blue, might be a little darker than what it was on the cartoon, at least from what I can remember. But I could be mistaken about that. I still think that both shades of blue work really well together. It's not one of those things where it's like they're too close together, so they kind of look the same. They are very much colors that contrast with each other enough, and the white helps the belt stand out just that much more. And the pink is a good color, I think, and pretty accurate to how he looked on the cartoon, even though it's not quite as dark, like I said, as he was drawn in the comic. Bobby Wald says, can you... Well, I'm trying to read. I don't like doing this on YouTube. I miss StreamYard. I wish StreamYard was working. No, I don't want to block him. I'm just trying to read what he said. I was trying to read what you said about Megamind, and I miss... Anytime I watch Megamind, I always think of that version of Sinestro. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And he's got a black and blue costume like Sinestro had in the comic book. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it for Sinestro. He's definitely a cool figure. All these Super Friends figures get a recommend from me, by the way, if I haven't said that already. I'm really enjoying opening these figures up. And I think Sinestro is the best of the three that I've opened so far. The Riddler was pretty good, but I had some issues with it, just like minor issues, little nitpick kind of things. And of course, like, I thought they could have done better with the arms on Lex Luthor. And this guy, I feel like, could have been a little leaner, if we're nitpicking. But overall, I think that they're still really good figures, and I'm really enjoying them. And we've got more to come, because next episode is going to be Green Lantern, and then finally I'm going to open up Batman. I've been saving him for last, because technically I've got 2 Batman figures to open. Mark Reed says, I hope SMG4 brings back Mr. Puzzles, and man, I'm trying to read stuff, and it's just making everything go away before I can finish reading it. I hope StreamYard is fixed tomorrow when I'm planning on doing Green Lantern, because I don't like doing this straight to YouTube. Anyway, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please make sure, I guess it's on this side now, since I'm mirrored, like and subscribe. I don't know if it's going to be that way when it's actually on YouTube, but this is how it looks to me right now. Like and subscribe and all that fun stuff down there. We're gonna end it now because YouTube is frustrating me. We'll talk to you next time. Bye. Is that gonna... Yes, I'm gonna stop streaming. I don't know how to do this on YouTube.